Welcome to a conversation with Senator Michael Moore. My name is Kevin Byrne. Senator Michael Moore is our state senator representing the 2nd Worcester District.
Very good. I'm surprised you remember that after
Oh,
all
it's been
these
so
months.
long since I've said those words, Michael, but
Can
we
you
gotta
remember
get
how
this
many
right.
towns?
Now, I'm going to say he represents central Massachusetts, where there are 8
Very good.
communities.
Very good.
Okay. The most important one of which is the community of Shrewsbury. We are taping this program in the Selectmen's Room up in the center of beautiful downtown Shrewsbury at 100 Maple Avenue, the town offices, and Michael and I are sitting here where the selectmen sit and all of the other major committees meet and the rest of it.
I think
We
the
don't,
public access
we've
was
got an
so.
awful lot of empty chairs here, but I don't think that has anything to do, Michael, with the quality of our program. It's just that this really is just a taping as such,
Well, and
anyway.
I think they said the public access was so unavailable, or too many groups wanting to get in there, they
Oh,
couldn't. They
yeah,
couldn't squeeze
yeah,
us in.
Yeah, we couldn't squeeze down at the old school down on wherever that is. Down near Route 9 someplace.
So it just justifies the need for more public access services.
Oh, I love that, which probably comes from more money that we might need from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but we'll talk about that at some
Right.
point. All right, it has been ages since you and I have done a program, and as we discussed prior to this, that has been my fault. By the way, my chair is squeaking, so if that's bothering anybody, tough. It's a squeaky chair.
Oh, actually,
Not
before we
me,
go any
it's the
further, we
chair.
forgot.
But
It's to the audience, we owe Kevin a belated happy birthday.
Oh, yeah.
It was his birthday yesterday.
My
so-
birthday was yesterday.
So happy birthday.
Right, happy birthday. Somebody said this was a mild, those little notes that, email things that you get, and a dear friend of mine said, and he says, Kevin, happy birthday, I understand this is a milestone birthday. So I wrote back to him, I said, yes, it is. I have now reached senior status at AARP, okay?
Ooh.
Which probably means I get the magazine half price or something like that. I just made that up.
Okay. I didn't realize they had tiers to their
They have
enrollment.
tiers. I don't think they have. Maybe they do have tiers. I don't really understand.
That's a
what they
good
do.
thing to
Anyway.
promote.
But here I am. I've retired. I retired from shaving. You are still working. I know
Yes.
you are working. All right?
Yes.
But I'm jumping all over the place, which is just fine, which is what we do. The reason we haven't done a program for a long period of time is we have a house in South Dennis in the historic district. It's in the historic district because I'm historic. It's my senior status.
I was trying to
at
think of some
AARP.
tie-in to AARP. When did that?
And this summer, we decided, since I was retired, that we would stay down the Cape for the entire summer, not coming back. I think we came back once, and Virginia says, we have to go back on Tuesday and Wednesday of, I don't know, August, something. And I said, why do we have to go back? And her answer to that was fingers, toes, hair. Apparently, they don't have places on Cape Cod that does your fingers, your toes, or your hair. You have to come back to your person that you have in Shrewsbury.
Oh,
So
I didn't realize that.
That's the reason that you come home,
Oh,
okay?
okay.
I don't go to fingers and toes, so I had no problem at all. So we came home for a couple of days.
Oh,
after
I didn't
that.
realize. So that's a good business to get into, I guess, down the Cape then.
Yeah, fingers,
Fingers, toes, and hair.
fingers, toes, and hair were the reason we came home, okay? And to make sure that the house was still here. It was a very hot summer. How was your summer, by the way?
Good, very good. I
You
got
had
to-
some time off, you had the kids?
Yeah, I had the kids. They,
Couple
yeah,
What did you do with them?
actually, where it was my daughter's last summer at home before college.
She's a freshman at Tufts
Yes.
University.
Yep.
Great, great.
So going, they just had parents' weekend last weekend.
Oh, my God, you've got a few more gray
Oh,
hairs.
quite a few gray hairs. I actually had.
And a lighter wallet, I would expect.
Oh, yes, yeah. But I had a full growth going in this weekend for the parents' weekend. It almost matched your.
Oh, you're kidding me? You
color,
let it
yeah.
go?
Oh, yeah, yeah, it grows in all gray. So,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
doesn't it?
yeah. It used to be growing a little auburn color to it,
Yeah,
but that's
yeah.
all
Now-
gone now.
Now it's gray, huh?
Yeah.
Right,
But,
yeah,
but
okay,
it's
that
nice.
that happens.
Yeah,
you
so it was
know.
nice to have them for, we were for a week and a half, so we just hung around the house.
Good
Because
for you.
she wanted to hang around so she could see her friends and all that for the last summer, so.
Sure.
So it was nice.
Sure.
It was enjoyable.
Great,
Yep.
great. And she's enjoying it.
Yeah, so far so good.
And the
Everything's
kid
going well.
is in high school,
Yes,
boy.
he's a sophomore. He's actually my height now.
No.
Yeah, so he's 15. He's my
So,
height.
he doesn't hang on to your ankles and your
No, he's
knees
not climbing
anymore?
up and down me anymore. We joke about that. Yeah. He's actually got. Actually, he can't fit into my shoes anymore. So he's outgrown those.
Get away.
Yeah. So he's yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So he's
Okay.
doing well. He's taking up electronics at Blackstone Valley Tech. So that's going well.
That's great.
Yeah, he's doing well grade wise. So everything's moving along. It's nice.
Okay. All right, how's everything going under the Golden Dome? This
It's
is the,
going great.
as we know, my birthday was October 28th, so this is the 29th, so it's the end of October. You guys are back in full swing down there.
Yep.
I read what's going on down there. It's very busy on a regular basis, right?
Yeah, no, we've we've
You're
got the
into
budgets done, we did a supplemental budget.
budgets, right.
We did, as we'll go over today, we did, what they call Nikki's Law about a week ago.
Okay.
We've got some, higher ed legislation coming up, tomorrow, Wednesday. Instead of Thursday, we're going into session tomorrow to handle the higher ed legislation.
Okay.
We have a lot of hearings going on. So the
Okay.
governor, now I'm chairing this year, I'm chairing Public Safety, Homeland Security again. But
Okay.
now I'm chairing the committee, the Senate Committee on Bonding. So-
Bonding.
So the governor's highway transportation bill.
Oh, yeah.
After the House gets done with it,
okay.
that will come over to us, so we have to look at that. And then there's a couple other bond bills that he's filed that will have to go through our committee, so we'll make recommendations on that.
Okay.
So I'm on a Child Vision Commission, which we just issued a report looking at the status of, it's actually pretty interesting. Children, when they go to start school, are supposed to go to an eye doctor.
An eye doctor?
Yes, they're supposed to get an eye exam. One of the deficiencies that we've noticed in the system, unlike vaccines, where vaccines,
Yeah.
you've got to get the vaccine, be allowed in school.
Yeah.
Well, they've documented at a high rate, and it's really more in underserved populations.
Sure.
That the kids are getting their eye exam, but when they're getting identified with a condition, they're not getting the follow-up. So we got to try to figure out how we go about now, okay, going the next step. It's people who have health insurance and have the means seem to be able to get the follow-up.
Sure.
But a lot of other kids aren't
Okay, so
getting
you
that
get an
follow-up.
eye exam, but that means you gotta get glasses.
That's right, you
Okay.
may have identified a problem. If you don't, it affects the schoolwork and affects your performance in school.
Sure.
So, and
Isn't
that's,
isn't that fascinating?
yeah, yeah, so just the things I think
Can you imagine
most
so
of us
many
take
ki-
for
So many
granted.
kids who going to school and all of a sudden they're not doing very well, and part of the reason is
They have a
they
vision
probably
problem.
can't see the blackboard. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, the whiteboard now. We don't have blackboards anymore, just whiteboards, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, actually, they are whiteboards now.
Yes, they
Yeah.
are, right.
Yeah,
They-
so.
See, we have a big whiteboard over there.
Yeah, so, so that's interesting. I sat on a committee that looked at, suicide for correctional officers and law
Oh,
enforcement.
yeah,
so-
we had discussed that a while ago.
Yeah, it's a,
It's a serious issue.
Yeah, we issued that
Those are tough,
report.
tough jobs.
yeah, they are.
God. You know how many people over the course of my long, now that I'm retired, how many, people who are in the corrections business or employment, that I had represented primarily in divorces. And when you got to talk to them, both men and women, quite frankly, said, this is a stressful job. My
It's,
God.
it's like being in jail yourself.
It's exactly right. I mean, you go in there and you're locked in
Yeah,
just as
you're
well as
locked
the
in
inmates
with them, and
are,
those,
really.
that's the element you're dealing with, and,
Right.
as you know, some of these people in jail aren't of the best character, so,
Right, right.
yeah, no, it has
It's a
an
scary
impact
kind of
on their lives.
Yeah. One of the things I want to talk to you about in detail is something that you have to be congratulated for. And I want to talk about something not euphemistically called, but really called Nikki's Law. This was kind of your undertaking, Senator
Yes.
Moore, correct?
Yep.
Tell us about it.
Well, basically what happened, about 4 years ago, a constituent from Auburn, Cheryl Chan, approached my office that her son, who had a developmental disability.
She identified herself?
Yes,
Okay.
yep. She came forward, she told us about the abuse that her son had endured. And we basically found out that.
Endured by whom?
By a provider. So the
Okay.
person who was being paid to take care of her son.
Oh, okay, all right.
So basically what we found out that there was a loophole in the hiring process, that even though the providers were running a Corey check, which is a criminal histories check.
Yeah?
If you've got someone who was never charged, or found guilty, or even found not guilty,
Sure.
you don't know.
So
that
a
they-
Corey that came back
Clean.
negative or
Right.
clean.
So basically what you have is and individuals with developmental disability have 2.5%, 2.5 times more of a chance to be victimized than the
Okay.
average person. And so you would have providers who they'd have an employee who was taking care of someone, an allegation comes in, if it was confirmed, many times the family of the victim doesn't want to go public with it.
Sure.
Because, no one wants, people may forget this, oh, you're reading the paper, but that person's face and identities, no one wants to be the face on the newspaper or something like that.
Right.
So basically what happened, you'd have some of these employees who victimize someone, they would be fired, they'd have agreements, they'd be fired, nothing would be filed in court, so there wouldn't be any sort of criminal prosecution, there'd be nothing on the Corey. So what happens was the employee would then lose his position there, would then go apply to another provider. And now when the provider did the Corey check,
It would come back clean again.
right, the criminal history comes back check, so they get hired again, and then the cycle starts all over again. So basically what this does is it establishes a database with the the Disabled Persons Protection Commission, DPPC, where if you're terminated, the employer has to submit your name to DPPC. It gets added to this database. Anyone before they can be hired, the company has to run that person's name through this database to make sure there's no one on this
Okay.
list who may have
Sure.
gotten terminated for this,
Sure.
but wasn't charged criminally.
Right.
We even have a 10-day appeal process, so if someone gets terminated, say there could be something that occurred that they get terminated, but it may not actually.
Not have related
Right.
to anything
They can
that
appeal
was
they can
abusive in any sense.
Right, they can appeal their name being put on this, so we took the due process, that's really what stopped it. We thought we had it through last fall.
Yeah,
but-
because this came up last year, did it?
Oh, we
Last
got it,
session?
we got it passed last session, and we thought we had a good chance of, well, it got down to the wire in informal session, that we were working out the final details.
Yeah.
And we thought we were gonna get it through, but then this whole due process issue came up,
Okay.
and
How to handle the appeal
the
by
appeal
a
and
person.
make sure someone has the right to due process.
Sure, sure.
So
Good
that
idea.
kind of delayed it, so now it's gone through the Senate, it's now sitting over the House. We think this year there's been much more involvement from the Speaker's office and
Good.
the committees, so we think that we got a better shot this year of actually getting it
So this
through.
this has passed through the Senate.
It has
And then
passed through the
you gotta
Senate
go
again.
back over to the
Yeah, so now it's in the House.
165 of them over there, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping it gets through relatively quickly.
Okay.
And then, then we've done this, from, just before that, we did the sub-budget, which it was, about $700 million that we, put through for additional funding to different programs.
Yeah, okay.
So, one of the things actually we did in the sub that, I actually tried to get it through earlier in the year. There's been a lot of schools that you read about, and I'm talking in Newton, Brookline, we've had them out here in Central Mass.
Sure.
Where you've had incidences of racial,
Sure.
slurs, paintings, bias incidents. Like I think about my hometown had a swastika a few years ago. So,
That I don't understand at all.
you'd think this day and age that
Yeah.
especially now, what's going on nationally, that we wouldn't be having that. I think it was Brookline or Newton that had that whole, one of the whole schools where the kids were in the gymnasium at one sporting event or something, were yelling out some
Yelling and
racial
screaming,
slurs.
yeah.
So basically, I worked with Jewish Community Relations Committee, worked with the Anti-Defamation League, and I actually developed a program that they worked with us on that would require, it doesn't require, it's not a Band-Aid. And actually, this went through as part of the supplemental budget, a $400,000 line item that for any school district that has identified a need for this type of program,
Right.
this funding is available for them to hire counselors, develop a program to come in and try to address those racial incidences going on in that school. So it's kind of just trying to really be a little proactive. Instead of waiting for, the children to go through an environment or an atmosphere where it's perpetuating a problem.
Sure.
Let's get in there, let's address it. And again, it's not a mandate, so if the school system self-identify a need, we've got the funding.
It's available.
It's available, and the program is going to be coordinated by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education and the Executive Office of Public Safety.
Okay.
So they'll work together, putting that program together.
All right, that sounds great,
Yeah.
absolutely
No,
good.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Isn't
So-
it intriguing in this day and age that those issues are still?
Yeah, we think some of it, I hate to say it, the last 3 years, we just,
I know.
people can
We've-
deny it,
we've-
but
we've had
racial
so
incidences
much
have.
of it on the national level and so much of it coverage about all the crazy things that have gone on, huh?
Yeah. Well, I think when you have people protesting
Sure.
down in, was it North Carolina?
Yep.
And they're chanting,
Oh, yeah, well,
not gonna
that was,
replace us, not to
that
replace
was
us.
the
And then
Virginia,
then-
Virginia incident, and
Right.
then you have the
And then
tough
you
guy saying,
oh, they're good people.
Yeah.
I mean, so that doesn't help.
Yeah,
So-
and it runs down through kids. So this is a great program. Good for you.
Thank you.
You're
Thanks.
being so proactive, Michael.
I'm trying to be, I hate to say it, but I've always said since I've been in the legislature that I've noticed that we always wait for,
Reactive.
right, we're very reactive, wait for the tragedy to happen.
Sure.
EOPS alone has reported that there were 438 hate crimes reported in 2017 in Massachusetts.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a with 53.9% of those crimes being based on race, ethnicity, or national origin, which is up from 52.8% in 2016. So it's slightly, we're up almost a full percent.
It's heading in the wrong direction.
Yeah, it really should be going the other way, this day and age.
Yeah, that's great. So there are programs that you're thinking about to help it. Another thing we want to talk about is water.
Yes.
This is the town of Shrewsbury incorporated in 1727. I was born after 1727, in case anybody was curious about that. I'm in at least decades after that, I think, anyway. Water is water is a consuming issue in Shrewsbury. I just made that up. We just had a
just
town
got-
meeting.
Just
in
got your
October.
notice.
What's that?
That's the notice on the PFAS.
Oh, there we
PFAS.
are, important information. Oh, you just got this.
Well, my office, they sent us a copy of it.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right. Because we just had a town meeting, a special town meeting, October, sometime, mid-October, before my birthday. And one of the issues is, establishing a fund that's available with the segregation of monies dealing with, water, the water and sewer department, stuff like that.
Yep.
It's kind of a technical part of it, but our town engineer, who is doing an absolutely great job. We have a relatively new town engineer. We have a new head of the water and sewer department. I met the poor guy at the town meeting, and I said, God love you, you're either a saint or crazy, jokingly with him because of the water issues that have affected
Plagued.
a lot of people here in the town of Shrewsbury. And I heard for the first time about something called PFAS. PFAS, I guess it's
Yes.
called, okay?
It's a lot easier to say than the name of the
than the
chemical.
name of it that goes on forever, and I'm not even going to try perfluoral alkyl, okay, and something else, okay? It is something that they have found, we've had one of the problems we had in Shrewsbury of recent origin was apparently a determination that there was manganese in our waters. Our waters are wells.
Yep.
It's all well water. We don't bring it in from someplace else, we get it ourselves. We went through the building of a new water treatment plant, the exercise of all sorts of testing and programs to get this chemical manganese out of our system. Apparently, we've succeeded. The issue we're having now is getting it through, getting it all out of the pipes that have been around for decades and decades and decades, and that's causing, some discoloration in our water system. Now we have discovered this PFAS, okay, which is in our water, in a couple of our wells, and a determination that this is not good for us either, okay? And we've got to figure out what to do with that. Apparently, this is, whatever this is cancer producing, I gather.
Yeah,
in some-
it's actually,
What do you
funny.
understand about it?
not in a ha-ha way, but I was approached by, the Clean Water Trust, organization to work with them on legislation to ban this chemical from some products being manufactured and used here in Massachusetts.
Okay.
And then prior to that, I had really never, prior to sitting down with them,
Yeah.
I had never heard of it.
Right.
And then,
Apparently, most people hadn't heard of it.
and now over the last 6 months since we filed it, I've locally and some national committees I've sat on, pay attention to what's going on, that this is really becoming an issue. That
Okay.
there's, at a hearing that we had, that the Public Health Committee had on legislation, I think there's like 2,000 or 3,000 different forms of this PFAS.
Right.
So.
And it's a man-made
Man-made, yeah, man-made.
thing.
There was really no, if I remember correctly, there was really no designation by DEP on how many parts per million or billion. I think it was 70. Now they're looking at as being the safe amount. Now they're looking at possibly 20 parts per billion. So, and I think, my recollection, I think Shrewsbury was at 12 parts.
Yeah.
So you're under the safe designation, but,
right. But it's still there.
yeah, it's still there, and I know when Kevin Mizikar and I were talking about it originally,
Our town manager.
the town manager, that the source of it had not been identified. So even though you only had 12 parts right now, next year could be 25, could be 15, who knows, because until you identified the source.
Right.
But it's been such an issue that in the supplemental budget that the governor filed, and then the House adopted, and we did, the bill provides $20 million of funding.
Again, this is part of what Senator Moore did.
Well, this is, yeah, we voted on this, but that's, I'll tell you, Kurt, I voted and I supported this, but this came right from the governor.
Oh, okay.
When he filed this up,
Okay.
the House passed it, and the Senate passed it also. This amount for $20 million to support drinking water programs, to provide low-interest loans to remediate PFAS contamination. And it also provides $8.4 million in grants to deal with drinking water systems that are contaminated.
Okay.
So hopefully this will be an avenue that, when I was talking to your town manager.
So there's an awareness
Right.
of this now established issue.
And I think when we were
From the governor on.
from the governor on down, from DEP, and as we were talking earlier, I was at one public safety hearing, and we were talking about a bill dealing with firefighters and exposure to carcinogens.
Yeah.
And PFAS came up in that. Apparently, a lot of the fire equipment, the flame retardants that they used on their coats,
Okay.
their gear, is made from this chemical.
Okay.
So, the various forms of this chemical is out there so much that to really get a grasp on this is gonna be difficult, and we're gonna have to try to, yeah.
Our town engineer had an interesting thing, because one of the town meeting members said, God, we're spending so much money on water and sewer issues in here. When is this going to level off? And his answer was very forthright. He said, as technology develops, we did the manganese thing, and the new technology is discovering there are these other entities that infiltrate our water system that candidly we never really knew about before.
And some are man-made like this, or some?
Exactly, and we've now got a determination as to how we take care of that. And he says, as technology continues to develop, who knows what else we're going to discover. When I was a kid many, many years ago, you like to say ignorance is bliss, which of course it's not, okay? We had no concept what the places was in anything.
Now, the other issue to concern, similar to like this PFAS, is that, that's been used for many years now, but if you go back to, and you and I were talking about a little while ago with the water, and as you were saying with the new piping they're putting in, well, nationally, not just Massachusetts, but if you look at the drinking water infrastructure, the pipes, lead contamination.
Lead pipes, right?
Lead pipes. There's legislation filed by Senator Lovely.
Which when they were put in was allegedly a godsend.
Yeah, the state of the
It's
art.
like asbestos, this is going to be
So
wonderful.
now this is gonna be a big infrastructure. Think about going to the city of Worcester or Boston, some of these gateway cities,
Sure.
and having to go in and try to replace all this old lead pipes.
Right.
And it's a health issue.
Yeah.
We've got, Senator Lovely has some legislation filed to mandate testing of water coming from the school, in and out of the schools,
Yeah.
to make sure that they're not being exposed to
Sure.
high levels
Sure.
of lead.
Right.
It basically goes back to Flint, Michigan,
Yeah.
when they had the issue. But it's something that, it's one of these things, the infrastructure,
Right,
when it was put in.
And you've got pipes that have been there for ever and ever and ever. It's always
Since your birthday.
fascinating. It's my birthday, yeah, it's my birthday, right. It's always fascinating to watch. I was someplace in Worcester, and they were digging up, it was up near Worcester State, and for some reason, I was there, and they had just pulled up a piece of a water pipe, and I'm looking at this thing saying, oh my God, it had been there for literally probably 100 years.
Yeah.
And there we all are. Time goes on. And I
Yes.
have no clue where we are time-wise. Mark is in the other room. We seem to have been talking for an awful long time. How are we doing? And he's just stuck his head in the door, and he says, we have 2 minutes left.
So
You
tomorrow.
read any good books lately?
Well,
No,
tomorrow,
sorry.
we're voting on
What?
legislation that's already gone through the House. It will be going through the Senate. It's dealing with, remember when Mount Ida College closed?
Sure.
And how there was no,
Overnight it closed.
well, that's it, there was no warning to the students.
Yeah.
We're voting on a piece of legislation tomorrow that is going to establish a formula that schools will have to be evaluated on that can predict 5 years out whether a school is looking at
Okay.
foreclosure.
Oh,
So.
that's a good idea.
Yeah, so there's a formula that's been.
The Mount Ida thing was just, they had enrolled
They had-
students.
They had students touring the school
The
the
day
next
they-
semester.
the day they
The day
closed.
before they closed.
Son of a gun.
Yeah, so that legislation will be voted on tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we have that coming up.
We were talking about it in entirely another vein, but, we're looking at, some of the smaller colleges.
Yeah.
The demographics has changed. There aren't as many kids as there used to be.
And they're projecting even further.
And Mark, who stuck his head in the door, he's doing it in a different room, and said, we have now finished.
Thank you.
It's been a while. Thank you so much for joining us. We will do this on a regular basis.
And to our friends who are veterans, happy Veterans Day.
Happy
And thank you for
Veterans
your service.
Have a good day.